This project started with my great-grandfather, who back in 1907 bought the original property from the Carmelite order, and later accumulated 37 properties to make what was a very interesting and dynamic farm, successful farm. If you look at the Atlantic Rainforest, Brazil's Atlantic Rainforest, it's a history of destruction, it's a history of habitat loss, as we've come to round about 7% of the original quantity left. Our studies are revealing that the most important part of the Atlantic Rainforest are the lowlands. These are the rich areas that were cut down to access for land for agriculture and for housing, and sadly it has suffered over the last years of colonization of Brazil since 1500. So the idea here is to try and replant the areas of lowland, forming a buffer area to the core area with a well-preserved higher elevation. We found seeds in the forest of native trees, very rare tree species of the Atlantic Rainforest, and we brought these seeds to our nursery where we cared for them, and then put them into our nursery trays, and we were able to germinate them and then produce seedlings. We're working with an average number of 80 plants, 80 different species, and a mixture of pioneer and hardwood species. And these we were bringing to the field, which had been previously prepared for planting trees, and then nurturing the trees. They were able to grow relatively quickly and change what used to be pasture into now a young forest, very species rich. How do we create wetlands? The wetlands were created quite easily. In hindsight, we had a tiny little stream that fed a catchment of around 100 hectares, or 220 acres, and we diverted this little stream, and then we created, after having surveyed the lowlands, we could work out which were the areas in which to create a earth wall so that we would hold the water and increase its height. So we were able to then create a dam, or we call a spillway, in which water runs back to its former course. And when we had all of these earthworks in place, we were able to flood the entire area and create what is now the wetlands, which has become an absolute hive of activity in terms of birds, in terms of amphibians, and in terms of mammals. We have the broad-snouted caiman here, we have the capybaras in abundance. They found this wetland and since have colonized, with the result that the mountain lion, or our puma, has actually come down and is now feeding on these young capybaras. Our rangers are instrumental in maintaining the area of REGUA without any poachers, people looking for plants. And how do we do this? Well, we had identified the key hunters, young hunters who loved being in the forest, and loved hunting. And so I approached a couple of these when we started back in 2001. I said, would you like to work for us on the basis that you go walking into the forest, but you're not allowed to take your gun? We gave them a trial basis of 1 month, and 1 month later we already found that they had bought into this idea and that they were perfectly happy patrolling the forest. We have reduced hunting by almost eliminated it. We maintain a series of trails open. We invite locals if they want to go for walks in the forest. We have very, very beautiful waterfalls people go regularly to walk to and see. And our rangers are feeling part of the project.